Welcome everyone to another episode of DaGamer Podcast. I am Antonius the Gamer. Once again, I am joined by my co-hosts, Jory, aka Super SS Rank, Tim, aka Mikal Smith. Thank you guys for joining me for episode 6 of DaGamer Podcast. Now, fellas, it is, we're getting to the slower parts of the summer gaming era. A lot of the announcements for fall have kind of been announced. We've mostly gotten into some of the bigger news thus far this year when it comes to games and things to look forward to. So, we talked about this, and I figured this would be the best episode to kind of really get into the anime side of things, really dedicated episode to all things anime. And, we've all had our discussions both together and in individual conversations about what modern anime looks like for this next generation and for us as adults. Right, we kind of grew up in the pioneering era of anime, right? It was a little bit more niche. You know what I'm saying? You had to go to your comic book store way in the back of the corner to, get the latest Dragon Ball Z magazine. Walk through the Spider-Mans and Iron Mans and all these things just to yo, you guys got that new DBZ? Like the little bootleg VHSs from Japan with the subtitles,
Mm-hmm.
This new era, they don't know how blessed they are. They got Crunchyroll, they got all these different ways to just streaming and consuming anime. They didn't know what we had to go through to kind of watch these things. They didn't know, what I'm saying? Like I always think back to high school of again, you were just in that little niche friend circle of people who knew what you were talking about. Now I see Goku stickers on people's cars, right? Like we've come a long way about mainstream anime acceptance. And my first question, the first topic that I'd like to get into is, what would you guys consider to be the modern big three of anime? And for those who don't know about that concept of big three, the big three was a term that was coined in the 2000s, right when anime was really blowing up, where the Shonen Jump series were really starting to break into the mainstream, right? So the original big three would be considered, Bleach, Naruto, One Piece, right? And that kind of splintered off of everything having its era, right? The 90s had their own big three, the 2000s had their big three. Now we're in the 2010s and 2020s, and we're seeing anime everywhere, right? We're seeing Chainsaw Man, One Punch Man, Jujutsu Kaisen, My Hero Academia, Demon Slayer. So I want to know from guys who were raised in the 90s like myself, what would you guys consider to be the big three if there was a big three?
For the 90s, correct?
No. For current day, and we'll kind of work our way back.
Current day, I would definitely say, My Hero, for one. I definitely consider it as a prime contender. I wanted to say Demon Slayer, but I do feel like it's still a very growing concept, but it could still hold a decent slot. This last slot, I do feel like it's like a transcendent type of title. How GTA went from PS3 to PS4 to PS5. I feel like One Piece to this day still holds a very big slot in terms of people's big three, because one thing I have come to realize, especially, and I think it was at the beginning of the Wano arc, where I recently saw a lot of people start One Piece from the very beginning and have made their way up to current Wano arc fights. And I was like, babe, that is dedication. That is dedication. There's no supernatural figure. There's no man, woman, child that could never tell you that you don't have patience.
Yes.
Because that is the definition of patient.
To see that many episodes, I'm like, I'm gonna see it through.
Fillers and all, because for me, bro, when that Skypiea arc got hit, bro, I was like, bro, this makes Frieza Saga look like a joke. But that's what I would consider my big three.
Okay. I'm not mad at that. Joy, what would you consider the modern big three?
Modern big three, My Hero makes a strong point. I don't know how to feel about this, because it's it just doesn't line up with the big three format of battle shonen, right? But I'm gonna say Attack on Titan.
You think it's in the modern big three?
I mean, I can't say who else is it. I don't know who else
an argument could be made for it. I just wonder, especially because the manga is technically over. There's been so many.
That's why. Yeah, that's why it's a little weird. So maybe I might put that on the shelf.
Okay.
But My Hero Academia.
Hmm.
And I don't know, man.
I mean, one good way to point out is what is pushing video games and toys. That's why, like I said, Demon Slayer, My Hero, because in terms of like anime aesthetic of like for video games and toys, those are pushing it. Like even like
Right.
apparel, bro. Like you will see like people fully decked out at SuperCons, any other anime conventions. My Hero and Demon Slayer characters are one of the first few things that you see.
Absolutely right. You'll see a Nezuko in a heartbeat.
Yeah. I mean, I guess for me, the reason why I'm not gonna put Demon Slayer up there because it's like Demon Slayer is going to pretty much end pretty soon. So
right, it's not a very long story.
Yeah, so that's why I was like, I don't know if it to me it's a Full Metal Alchemist.
Well, but that's a good point. But I do feel like anime as of now, or especially the way TV works now, I think, not everybody wants 10 seasons anymore. Don't overstay your welcome to the point where the story just doesn't make sense anymore. Like, look at where we are with Dragon Ball Super. Like you've kind of like overstayed your welcome. So like, yes, maybe more limited stories might be the formula moving forward.
That's true. I think we I remember Tim again in a previous iteration of this, we had talked about where growing up you always kind of wanted to know at one point, like, man, whatever happens in Yu Yu Hakusho down the road, whatever happens with Dragon Ball. Now we're getting all these now we're getting it, we're like, I don't know if this was I don't know if I really wanted this. And maybe it should have ended at that time.
Yeah.
All things considered.
I mean, One Piece, I don't even consider One Piece a part of the big three anymore because it's already like superseded that. That's
right.
Like,
but it's still modern, you know what I'm saying? Like to Tim's point, it's like it's
transcendent
people who are younger
from
than us
generation.
who are like, who have watched it, you know what I'm saying? Like he said, and have caught up, who are on like they're on the weekly episodes. Like I remember I started watching One Piece in college. That was 10 years ago.
I'm gonna say Jujutsu Kaisen.
Okay.
All right.
I'm gonna say Jujutsu Kaisen. You know what? Okay, Jujutsu Kaisen. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Nope.
No.
Mm-mm.
Why not?
No. I was gonna say this for like our second topic, but we can talk about it.
Okay.
I think, not to get too much ahead of ourselves, I think JoJo is more of a resurgence than an actual big three, because it's technically a 90s series that's just getting a very late adaptation, right? So we're seeing it's invaded anime meme culture, right? There's so many references to it at this point. But if you think about it, it's a Dragon Ball era series. Like it's not really modern in the sense that, unless you're somebody who's like reading JoJo Lands or whatever, Araki is doing right now, a lot of the bigger aspects of JoJo have been around for literally decades at this point. There's a reason why Jotaro has kind of superseded just the anime, because it's been around for so long.
Okay. So My Hero Academia, Jujutsu Kaisen. I'm gonna have to. I think my final pick is gonna be. It's hard, man, because even Vinland Saga is actually making a rise.
I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, so it's like,
I guess
it's weird, man.
About it a little bit, because it's funny. Like when I was making my list, I put Jujutsu Kaisen with a question mark at the end, right? Where I'm like, technically, there's only been one season of the anime, right? We're about to get the second season. From what I've seen online, the manga is very, very popular, right? It's being pretty well received, and people are hyped for season 2. It got a theatrical release for a movie, like already. So it definitely seems like a pretty big deal. But I'm like, is it too? I mean, again, for a big three, right? Like the one that's like pushing the culture right now, is Jujutsu Kaisen doing enough?
Then I'll say Chainsaw Man.
Again, one season though.
Because I was gonna put One Punch Man, but 1 season, 2 seasons, but One Punch Man is a wild card because the dip in quality made it take a hit for me. So I don't know, man. I to be honest with you, I can't really pick because there's nothing that's grabbing my attention to
Okay.
where I'm like, to where it's giving me that same level of ecstasy as when we were younger. You know,
Okay,
like
stay on that point because that's actually gonna be
yeah.
my next topic. I'll give
Okay.
my list real quick and we'll go right into that because I did have another question when I was making my list. So for
Okay.
mine, you know, I would agree, My Hero Academia. Like whether you like the storyline or not, or where it's been going, you can't deny the impact that it's had over the years. You know, it's especially the first 3 seasons, people were on the edge of their seats waiting for it to drop. You know, it's had 3 very solid movies. You know, you see the apparel all over the place. The appeal of Midoriya and Bakugo and all of them can be felt in that younger generation. I think it's undeniable at this point.
Mhm.
My second pick, what did I pick? Sorry, I did put Demon Slayer. I mean, again, it is a shorter series, like Jory said, but I think to Tim's point, it's like we're starting to see the spillover effect and then getting bigger and bigger and bigger in appeal, right? I mean, we're talking about a series where its second arc technically was released as a movie and made millions and millions of dollars. Like this ain't, you know, like for such a short series, this isn't not you're just like, oh, it's cool to kind of watch on your board. Like people are on the edge of their seats, kind of watching Demon Slayer. And then for my third pick, again, I was a little like, I'm not too sure. Like I said, Jujutsu Kaisen question mark. What did I put as my other option? I did think One Piece had the chance of kind of reemerging as that as well. But I ended up ultimately going, even though I don't watch it, and Jory, you and I have joked about this multiple times. I'm like, not for nothing, Black Clover. I've seen it gain more and more and more and more mainstream appeal. I feel like it's this generation's Naruto. You know,
You're right. You're right.
wants to be the Wizard King. He's an underrated, no talent having, you know, optimistic character. His rival is a black-haired, moody-looking guy. You know, like the blueprint is right there. So
Yeah,
that
you're
kind
right.
of be like my third wild card pick. Like it might be Black Clover.
I can rock with that.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
You know what? You know what's
Right.
what's so funny about that? It brings in another interesting point. I felt like the title had it was up and down. Like people, like not people, animes kind of like were fighting for that title shot.
Yes.
Now it kind of like by default happened because it was gonna be the fact that you mentioned Wizard King made me think of Meliodas.
Seven Deadly Sins.
Seven Deadly Sins, and you know
it could have been there.
It could have been there.
Between
it was
going to
be My Hero
releases,
Academia,
yeah,
Seven Deadly Sins, and Jujutsu Kaisen if the energy kept up, but that definitely took a hit, man.
Yeah,
so,
Seven Deadly Sins,
you know,
between the Netflix releases, between the animation quality, between Meliodas kind of being a little bit of a pedophile. You know, it gets him and Bond just a little. I'm like, this is. Woo,
yeah, Meliodas is wild, man.
Grow up. All right. So yeah, I would say that it definitely was a potential at one point. But to get right into the next topic, because again, I think this all ties in together. For the modern day, do you guys feel like because anime is so popular nowadays, do you guys think a big three is even necessary? Right? Because going back to where Jory's indecision was, right? You have a lot of names that are like, yeah, it could be Chainsaw Man, it could be Attack on Titan. There's a lot of animes that have had such a cult following at this point that it's hard to say like what's the one that's kind of driving the industry.
I would say it's more of like a social media type of debate. I wouldn't say like outside of that, like it won't really hold the same weight, I would say. I do feel like people just love the variety of influx of what we have. Like, because, there's people, once they binge, the latest season or something, they look for something new because they've realized that there is endless quality out there, whether it's a mini series or whether it's been probably 10 seasons long, but you just never heard about it.
Right.
It's just like anime industry is such a deep vortex of like content that you just can't deny it.
Yeah. It's literally there's something for everyone, you know. So whereas opposed before where obviously you had other options, but they weren't, like you said, as promoted as much, right? Social media wasn't highlighting them as often. And there wasn't as many subgenres, I'd argue. right? Where it's just like you have shows that with ridiculous names, like, again, not to throw shade, but it's just like I reincarnated as a slime. I'm like, I don't know what this is, but I see it all the time. Like there's a lot of shows where I'm like, I've never watched it. I've heard of it in passing. Like Jory said, Vinland Saga, everyone's telling me it's fire. And it might be, but it's like, there's so many other things that I'm watching right now that I'm like, all right, I'll get to it when I get to it. You can make an argument for Baki these days.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's go ahead.
I'm sorry, nah.
No, I was like, there's so many genres that it's hard to be like, nah, this is the one right here.
If they did not choose to go the CG route, Keegan is better than Baki. Had they did written animation, had they did hand-drawn animation with a decent budget, Keegan is better than Baki.
Keegan.
Yeah, it's on Netflix. It's on Netflix. It's like a cell-shaded fighter. It's a fighting anime. You can look at the Keegan manga, and it's better than Baki, man, because what it is corporations, they hire a fighter and they sponsor this fighter. So Sears, Kmart, Burger King, the police department, and they literally fight over for shares. So it's millionaires, underground tournaments.
Okay.
So they fight for shareholders. So it's like so they have fake corporations, like they have Disney, someone who fights for Walt Disney, someone who fights for Nintendo, someone who fights for PlayStation. It's real interesting, man. Yeah. And when I say you don't know who's gonna win, you don't know who's gonna win. It brings you back to like Yu-Gi-Oh days, where you're like, yo, and the fact that the main character doesn't fight as often actually makes it feel like a very effective fighting game. So where you have that, that openness to playing certain characters on the roster, like there's not. Yeah. So
I think that's becoming a new trend, and I'm not mad at it, right? I think we talked about this before. One Punch Man. I think One Punch Man, ironically, its greatest strength is that Saitama is usually on the sideline. You're able to flesh out these other secondary characters who, not for nothing, do have room for growth, right? You're like we've seen Genos grow because it's just like once Saitama gets there, it's over, right? But you're able to see these other characters kind of like grow from their interaction with him because he's a boss card. Like he's he's the finishing move.
Exodia.
He's Exodia. Yeah, so I think that trend of these secondary characters having more weight, I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at the days of holding out for Goku to show up on the battlefield are over, and I'll take it. Okay, so to keep things going, let's go back in time a little bit, right? So we talked about the topics beforehand. I wanted to make sure we save this actual conversation for the podcast. I didn't want us to reveal our hands too soon. We were all raised in the 90s, right? We were all raised in the wild, wild west of anime, right? And again, we kind of know where the 2000s big three is, right? So we're going to get to that in a moment. But I was curious to hear your guys' opinion on what you guys would consider to be the big three in the 90s, right? When things were getting established, when, again, it was much harder to get your hands on certain animes, and you really had to find out from your homeboy at school who happened to buy the random VHS at the comic book store because you had no other way of knowing. I'll start. I think, again, the not so big elephant in the room, the obvious choice, Dragon Ball Z was the one, right? That was Toonami's bread and butter. We all know where we were when certain promotional videos when Toonami dropped with Dragon Ball Z clips, right? I think it was everywhere. Obviously, we're the generation that kind of carried that, in America at least, to the promised land, of like being one of the GOATs. The other two choices on my personal list, and that's all, like, again, I'm curious to hear your guys' take. I think the second runner-up for me would be Yu Yu Hakusho, as far as one of the big three of the 90s. And then, and I'll say why real quick. I think for me, I didn't get into Yu Yu Hakusho till later, or later than most people. And going back to watch later, I could see why it was such a compelling show, right? Like, Yusuke is a great protagonist. Like, he's not a good guy. Like, he has a good heart, but he's not really a good guy. And I think this is what kind of made him compelling. Like he's like a bad boy with a good heart. And then of course the supporting cast was just fire. It was just fire. You know, you got your basically like your woman version of Master Roshi with the trainer. You know, Hiei or Hiei or however it's pronounced. Hiei, right? Come on now. Hiei was Sasuke before Sasuke. Let's just call it for what it is. You know what I'm saying? It's just the swordsman with the third eye and the black fire dragon. Like, come on, we all know what we were. I wasn't into it now. I was like, yo, what is this? This looks flame.
Greatest tournament in history.
Right. The Toguro brothers, bro. I just need this final spirit gun. I'm like, yo, what is it? I need to catch up real quick. I think its impact cannot be denied. And then my third choice, going on impact that cannot be denied, Gundam Wing. Gundam Wing is in my big three. Like, you guys both know how I feel. I'm not the mech anime kind of guy. Never have been. There's exceptions for me, but I'm like, bro, everyone I knew watched Gundam Wing. I knew every single character without watching the show. My cousin had me sleep over so we could watch Endless Waltz when it dropped on Toonami.
Oh man,
I remember when I got to Japan, he was like, "Yo, if you could just get me Wing Zero, I will send you the bread. Just come back with that Wing Zero model." And I'm like, "Bro, I can't lie. The Gundam with the angel wings, bro. You can't. You know what I'm saying? Like, I felt like
90s aesthetic. That's a testament to know what time he was in.
Yes, the drawings, the sound effects, the guns. It's, you know what I'm saying? Like, for me who was not a mech enthusiast, I wasn't, watching Big O or any of those things. It's like you could not escape Gundam Wing. So those were my picks for big three. What about you guys?
I would definitely say, actually, I'm not going to say Dragon Ball Z, because I do feel like, since you said that, I want to give more room to other bigger nominations as well. I would definitely say Digimon.
Okay.
Digimon was like a very big pinnacle part of the 90s, especially the first two seasons with the original cast that kept revolving, the original kids and the descendants of the little kids with their new friends.
I guess my question would be, why would you say that Digimon hit harder than Pokemon? They were always being compared to each other.
To be honest, bro, like, and it goes back to our last podcast discussion. I just kind of felt the anime after the Indigo League is just like Pokemon didn't really slap as hard as the video games. So it's kind of like, you kind of consider them separate, but like, it was good, but it wasn't really nothing that I can miss a Pokemon episode, I would say. I can miss it.
Fair.
Go to sleep.
No, you're right. Not miss anything.
But a Digimon episode, bro, like Digimon has such great continuity that, like, when they fought the four dark masters, like the fact that I found out that this metal Seedramon was the first Seedramon that they fought.
Yeah.
And it's I was like, oh, so like you never, it was just such a very like undertone type of thing that you never would have realized, like, wow, one of the first villains that they fought became this big titan of a character.
R.I.P. Seedramon.
Yeah. And that's a good point you bring up. Cause I remember, like, Jordan and I talk about this all the time. It's like we remember where we were when I saw War Greymon and Metal Garurumon for the first time. You're right. You could not miss an episode. You'd be like, yo, I need to be home. I'm not sleeping over. I'm not going outside. I need to be in my room, TV on. I cannot miss this episode. Go ahead, Tim.
Okay, I would definitely. I definitely gotta like. I'm gonna say a double one here, and I feel like one is a limited series, but one is an ongoing series. Gundam Wing, and Ronin Warriors.
Ronin Warriors? Nah, you gotta elaborate, please.
No, all right. Ronin Warriors. It was and that's why I said it was a limited series. It was a limited series, like Attack on Titan, Demon Slayer. But bro, Ronin.
He's not wrong.
Ronin Warriors was literally the boy version of Sailor Moon.
It was. It was.
Like, even when I rewatched it back, I was like, bro, this is darker than I thought. Like, all that's like you mean to tell me all this stuff was going on? Like, even Gundam Wing, bro, watching that now as an adult, like, especially knowing economics of the world.
Yes.
It's like, wow.
It's a political anime. Gundam Wing is a political anime. When you get older, you're like, oh, wow, oh. They were talking about war and country negotiations.
And so my third one, and this is a very big one because I really feel like it really hit multiple communities. Yu-Gi-Oh!
As a big three.
Yes. Because in terms of trading card games and even like early days of cosplay,
right,
video games, it hit all three.
Right. They used to have Yu-Gi-Oh! Tournaments in the mall. In the mall. Aventura Mall, I'd go and you just see the table set up by the food court. You right.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I'm not mad. Jory, go ahead.
And we agreed on all check marks, all boxes checked, man. But I'm gonna go with something different. Okay. I think we all have to admit we watched Sailor Moon.
Yes, we did.
Sailor Moon hit. It for did. Female, for girls, and yeah.
But so I thought about Sailor Moon also, right? Because you're right. Yeah. Even as guys, we did watch it. But I feel like Sailor Moon's continuous popularity has been mostly Japan, right? Whereas like Dragon Ball's kind of like lingered in the West, right? Mm-hmm. At a certain point, like even the girls that grew up watching Sailor Moon, if you were to ask them now, they're like, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? They don't know what the characters are up to. They don't know like, what's been going on with the series ever since.
But for at that time, we're in the 90s, it hit. My older sister was watching it. Mm-hmm. My brother still remembers it. I'm pretty sure anybody in their 40s was like, oh, that's Sailor Moon. Without a question. We already know the Twistido mask skit. We all know when he turned the Moonlight Knight stick. We all know when her sister came out of nowhere stick. The Talking Cats. That was the original Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Mm-hmm. You feel me? So you had that. It still hit. And then Sailor Moon's influence is literally on a lot of costumes. On everything. The magical Naruto girl. Doing a tribute. The sexy jutsu. How's his hair? Sailor Moon. That's the first thing we thought of, So that'd be my first one because we all knew how her we all knew she did the destructo this as well. Mm-hmm. You feel me?
With the little shining tiara.
Yeah, the tiara destructo this, man. And we all remember her the seasons, and then they had very cool monster designs.
They did.
And it was horror. Because those monsters was scary. Mm-hmm. And it was a little dark at times.
Yeah, it did.
So yeah, not Naruto, but Sailor Moon definitely is one. I'm gonna go and say he said Ronin Warriors, which is cool, but Rurouni Kenshin.
And that's why I said you and I were gonna argue. Because I'm like, when I was making my list, I saw it and I was like, I know George's gonna say this, and I'm not gonna pick it on purpose, so we could debate.
Yeah, Rurouni Kenshin, man. The first episode, you're like, whatever. But then the second episode hits, and I remember very clear. I was walking by, and I wasn't gonna watch it because I'm like, yo, a samurai that doesn't kill. What are you, man?
Yeah.
Right. And then the guy was talking, yapping, and Kenshin drew his sword, and the guy's head went through the roof. I wasn't finished speaking yet. So long. And I was just like, nah, dog. And I kept watching. And then it got to where it got to the second villain was Aoshi Shinomori. Mm-hmm. He had the trench coat on, and he had the cut hair. He had the cut hair, the trench coat on, and he had the two Wadachi swords. And he was a ninja. Mm-hmm. And I remember seeing that arc, and I was just like, nah, this is it. This is it.
Okay, so now here's where I want to argue.
Yeah.
Do you feel, and I'm open to being wrong here. I feel like Rurouni Kenshin is held in such high regard because it's aged so well. I feel like if we're talking about, like, to your point about Sailor Moon, like you said, it was undeniable. Like, even if you didn't watch it, you watched it because everybody around you knew about it. Like you said, all the references were there. Rurouni Kenshin, I mean, I knew it was a thing, right? Obviously, like you said, it was on. You'd see it in the promo release. I don't feel like it was talked about in its era as much. as later on. Like we got a little bit older, you kind of go back and watch it. The animation holds up, the storyline, the characters are all A1, you know. But at that time, we're just like, what is the playground conversation? I just don't remember as many Rurouni Kenshin talks.
Well, from the thing is, with Rurouni Kenshin, they would never say his name. They would call him the Batosai.
Mm-hmm.
So they would like, Jory, you watch the Batosai? I said, the Batosai, you mean Rurouni Kenshin? Oh, yeah. They were, the name was so, the name, his nickname, his murder name, hit so hard because I would catch myself saying, man, the Batosai. When they would talk about him, it was like this amplified guy. And so everybody knew him as that. They did not care about Kenshin. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So it did hit. You'd be like, oh yeah, you watch the Batosai? And you probably be like, what? The Batosai? But not knowing they mean Rurouni Kenshin.
I guess that's a fair point. Because
yeah,
the reason why I would even say that, right, is like we look at, for example, shows like Tenchi Muyo, right? Or I'd even say Outlaw Star to some degree, right? And then also Inuyasha, right? Those were also kind of contenders on that tier in that time. Whereas like I feel like although they have their cult following, Rurouni Kenshin kind of grew and grew and grew. Where like Inuyasha, while popular, is not kind of held as in the same high regard, you know, as Rurouni, as Kenshin is basically.
You ready? You ready for the next one?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Zoids. Yeah, I'm gonna tell you why.
Zoids was Metabots to me, but go ahead.
But yo, Zoids, fam, no, you could say that. But with Zoids, man, with Zoids, they would be like, yo, Jory, you remember the Berserk Fury? They had the toy kits. So first you would get the Gundam collection, then the Zoids came out. The fact that the one Zoid, Liger 01, had the transformations. If I show you a Zoids picture, you remember that's the Liger that had the different modes, like Mega Man. And I think after that part, Zoids blew up. Zoids had one of the longest runs, and it kind of fell off after Gundam Seed because they decided to do the fusion. But the Zoids, two of the best seasons was Zoids New Century and Zoids Chaotic Century. That's trust me. Because like you probably weren't into it.
No, to your point, because like for example, my cousin who was a little bit younger than even us, right? He was a Beyblade fanatic, and it wasn't for me. But I could see it kind of felt like Zoids. I'm like, this is something I don't understand, but I'm watching it play out.
Yeah, they had a lot of B rank level animes. I would say Beyblade, Zoids, Metabots. I was like, bro, when you said Metabots, I was like, bro, I forgot all about that, bro.
Yeah.
Metabots was like Mega Man Battle Network Pass.
Man. and y'all remember Monster Rancher?
Of course.
But
I was so upset that they never finished. They never finished it. But there was a lot of B. To Mac's point, there was a lot of B ranking anime that were very popular. Ultimate Muscle, man. Yo, I watched the season, man.
It was
good, man.
Yeah,
it was compelling.
Character designs aside, I mean, granted, there were actually pretty interesting character design. Like the storyline actually wasn't half bad. Not for nothing.
Alien wrestlers signed me. NWO and wrestler was hot.
It wasn't half bad.
Oh man. But I'll say my final runner-up. You guys probably would disagree with me, but I'd say G Gundam.
I mean, so when it comes to Gundam, I just say Gundam Wing because that was literally us. You know what I'm saying? That was literally our era. But I don't think there's a Gundam choice that would be wrong, right? I think the Gundam franchise as a whole, you know, kind of hit. Or like you said, G Gundam. I remember they had the original Gundam Wing on Adult Swim for like older audiences. It was just a time where it's like Gundam anything was just like out of there, you know. Yeah. So I wouldn't really argue with G Gundam. I feel like it's kind of in the same ballpark of like. It was just this era of like the mech anime era, you know, like that was the blueprint at that time.
That's right. So Sailor Moon, Zoids and Rurouni Kenshin.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I'm not even mad at I'm not even mad at your list, because truthfully, like the reason why I would allocate it, because if you were just talking Toonami, that was like the main butter. Anything else on JetX, Fox Kids, kind of was like, you caught it, you know. But they had some very good. The Bebe was amazing. That's still one of the best songs. Yo, that's still one of the best songs, man. And you know, Sasuke with his Drasil. Well, not Drasil was the green one, and I remember the names, man. Dragoon was the fake Sasuke.
We also had a pretty top tier anime intro runs. Like even when you're saying Sailor Moon, I'm like, bro, the theme song was just stuck in my head. It's stuck in my head. It's right up there with Dragon Rock the Dragon, like low key. But Sailor Moon, G is the one.
Man, Dragon Ball Z in America hit different. They had the Dragon Balls come first in 3D and spit. You are now about to watch Dragon Ball Z. Yo, do you understand what was happening to me? And then when I heard the real Yu Yu, they played it by an accident one time on Toonami. They played the real Yu Yu Hakusho song, doom 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 doom, and I'm like, yo, this Japanese music? No, this is crazy.
Even when you go to the comic book store, like not for people will say it's quote unquote overrated. I'm like, that Chala head Chala in Japanese Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, we catch the Spanish channel.
Yeah, bro. Chala. Like it just it does something to you.
That man was singing with all his heart, dog.
Yeah.
That was a good anime run. But then it was I think it was like my early part of like high school. That's when Bleach started to come into my life, Naruto, and One Piece as well. And like when those three came in, I just got consumed.
It was over. It was over. But before we get into them, because they're obviously gonna be our main topic for this evening, the thing I wanted to discuss with you guys while we're still in the 90s. Why do you feel, because we mentioned these series that were a little bit more long running, right? And at that same time, we did get a lot of like shorter series that had cultural impact, right? We talk about the Cowboy Bebops, we talk about the Triguns, we talk about the Samurai Champloo, that kind of thing. Why do you guys feel, or
Ghost in the Shell,
right? Why do you guys feel like those shorter run animes, while they're respected, right? No one talks down about them. Why do you guys feel like they don't hold as much influence today in comparison to some of these other more mainstream animes?
Because it was too mature. Like Ghost in the Shell, AI. I had to think too much. I couldn't really follow it.
Okay.
At that age, the themes were a little too mature. Just for any kid to kind of be interested, because there's scenes where nothing's happening. There's episodes where nothing's happening.
True.
So like you're lost, right? Try a gun. You're like, yo, why don't you just shoot this man? And then so you're trying to understand, like you're drawing this great. That was one of my problems with Ultimate Muscle. It was just pure comedy at one point.
Yeah.
And then when the final, silly. And then finally, and it stayed silly for 90% of the time. And when they finally did have their matches, it was amazing. But those themes were too mature, hard to follow. Ghost in the Shell, and AI. You so like, yo, what is she? Does she have a body? Does she doesn't have a body? Does she not have a body? Then you go on the Trigun. Then you go on with Trigun. I thought Trigun, every time you would catch Trigun, not only that, the air times. That's what really killed it for me. The air times. You had to wake up at a certain time to watch it. You kind of like, you seen the memes when you're falling asleep and you hear the end theme song to not Yu Yakusho, but either Tenchi Muyo or Inuyasha. You know what I'm saying? You just waking up looking at the screen. You feel me? And then right after that, now volume 5 commercial shows up.
Yeah.
So
these are the hits.
Yeah. And I remember the songs in order. That's how crazy it is. Yeah, but it was the runtime. It was definitely the runtime.
Okay.
And then
we definitely all. I don't think there's any one of us that would sit here and be like, "No, those shows were trash." Right? In retrospect, like I think as adults, we want to come to appreciate them more. Right? But I think you might be right. It might have been too mature. Right? Because to your point about Trigun, I'm looking at again, Vasta Stampede, Fire Name, right? Character design out of this world. I'm like, you have this amazing gun, and you're not shooting anyone. But that's also because episode 1, you're like, he's a pacifist. Okay, I'm 9. I don't know what that word means. I just see a gun. I'm like, why are you not shooting?
Yeah, exactly. Like, why is this guy running away? So you get angry at him, and you wind up hating the character as a young kid because nothing's happening fast.
Yeah. Goku would have never.
Yeah. So definitely the themes, man.
Okay. And do you have anything to add to that? I was just kind of curious as to why you felt like, that I would agree with Joy. Like, I think there was just a combination of small things that took away from them hitting like in that moment for us, or at least for me.
I would definitely say he was right about the maturity, because that does it does weigh on your attention span.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're hearing all these bigger people words, and it's kind of like, no, bro, I want action. Because
Yes.
that's what was stimulating you.
Right.
Another major factor I would probably say is that was also the growing era of merchandise.
Mm-hmm.
Merchandise, video games based on that particular universe, like anything, a product outside of the actual show. And I kind of feel like, yes, the bigger ones stood out because, like, for example, when Dragon Ball Z Budokai 1 dropped,
Mm-hmm.
prime example. When the Yu-Gi-Oh card games dropped on like PlayStation 2,
Yeah.
that's another prime example. So like, and then you had the card games. So it was like the bigger ones held much more weight outside of the show because of merchandise. Like merchandise
That
was
makes sense. They were everywhere. You were constantly reminded of like, here is this show, here is this show, here is this show. Who is this character? You're right. That's a good point.
Because basically you took it everywhere with you.
Mm-hmm.
When you went to school, you brought your cards, you brought your Game Boy Advance. When you got home, you ignored homework and you went straight to it.
Mm-hmm.
So like even on weekends, all right, now I'm caught up on the latest episode.
Yeah.
It's like it had a calling for you everywhere you went.
Yep.
It was all that you thought about.
That's true. The impact of it was undeniable for sure. I think that's a good point. I think you're right. Okay, I was just curious. I'm like, I know it just didn't hit, but I wasn't sure why. And like I know all of us from that era kind of feel the same way. We're like, these are our classic, well-regarded animes, but it's just like, yeah, it was cool, but it wasn't these. But speaking of those that wasn't these, going back to Tim's earlier point, the big three, the ones that brought anime truly to the mainstream: Bleach, Naruto, and One Piece. Now, all of their rollouts were a little bit different. Obviously, we'll just start with the big one in America. Naruto it benefited probably the most from marketing, right? It got the Toonami rollout, right? You had characters that were immediately stuck out to you, like, who is this kid in an orange jumpsuit? Why does this girl have pink hair? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's all these different things of like, oh, they're ninjas? Whoa, you know what I'm saying? There's a lot of things that kind of like we're eased into, as a viewing audience. And then with Bleach, we're getting like our first mainstream supernatural anime. If all of us are manga readers and anime watchers, not for nothing, like Bleach character design, A1. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're seeing these very unique, complex designs, right? Like, it's Ichigo, who's, he looks like a strong main character, but he also looks like he could model for Gucci. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just everything from the, you know what I'm saying? Like, the design to the outfits look very particular and detailed and deliberate. And then I say One Piece last, only because obviously it was received differently in Japan out the gate. But for us, we all know the 4Kids run. It seemed very silly at the offset. Like, why does this Navy officer holding what looks like a water gun? Why does the main character sound like this? He has rubber powers? That's stupid. But obviously over time it kind of won us all over. Mm-hmm. I guess like in your guys' opinion, like I remember for me, like Naruto, it was high school. I had a friend of mine who kind of put me onto it, saying that it was a great series. At the time, he had also put me on the Fullmetal Alchemist, so obviously his coastline game was A1. And you know, of course, you had like that Shonen Jump release coming to America every month, right? Naruto was always on the cover, you know, so you know there was a lot more access to it at the time. That was Shaman King and all those things. But what would you guys say was like your introduction? Like Tim, since you mentioned them first, what would you say kind of brought you into these franchises?
Obviously, yes, Naruto with the Toonami run. It was just the music that really caught me. I remember watching the first trailer where I literally saw like the nine-tailed influence Naruto punch Haku through a mirror.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wow, this looks amazing. And then, but what really sealed me into this franchise, bro, was Ultimate Ninja, the game.
The game.
And it was like from there, it was just over. It was
Mm-hmm.
over. Like I've been invested into the series ever since. Like from the tuning exams to like, you know, the final fight with Sasuke and the Sound 4, and then even hearing like news about Shippuden, like, oh, they're growing up.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, it was always something that kept, you know, giving me something to like really truly be more invested. Now Bleach, I started Bleach very late.
Okay.
Yeah, because like I think by the time I started Bleach, Aizen already left the Soul Society. Like
I mean, that's not that late.
Well, you found out he was already the villain.
Okay.
And you know, for me, I don't really care for spoilers like that. If you say it, you say it. So now I'm watching the series like, well, I already know this dude is the bad guy. So it's kind of like, how is this story developing? But like how you said, man, like it was just that supernatural world of you know, it's just like a Japanish looking area, but at night, all these things just happen to people. Like there's a whole another side of a world. There's people who are technically like spiritual beings, but not really, because they still bleed. And then they have a whole organization. But like how you said, it was just the character designs, man. Like to this day, Bleach designs are some of the most immaculate looking pieces of work out there, man. And of course, you know, the last one, like, you know, One Piece, like, you know, 4 kids, always gonna have my heart, man. 4 kids growing up, that was a beautiful network for kids. And I just love the silliness of it. But then it was when they fought Don Krieg.
Okay.
And the Arlong saga, I was like, wow, this is getting very deep. Like you got past the little kid with the rubber powers, and you met a swordsman, and you met this chef who basically can knock your head off when he kick you and stuff like that. And you got this slingshot, long nose assassin, like sniper. But it was just so appealing, bro, because it had so many layers to it. And then there's a pirate show, bro. You never really saw pirates in this type of light before. So, and you know, like I did sailing when I was younger as well. So like even just seeing like any aspects of sea culture, like that was just something that really just truly brought me in. Okay. But you know, to this day, I mean, yeah, like you know, like how you said, the rollouts are different. And you know, some of the shows kind of went on a weird hiatus. For a while. But you know, they're all back. You know, one of them is kind of fizzling out. But you know, the other two are trying to like, you know, finish up in a good spirit. So I hope they keep that same momentum growing.
Okay. All right, Joy, talk to me. How you get introduced?
Okay, so with Naruto, it was the AMVs. I was in 7th grade. Ooh. And they were showing me the AMVs. Okay. And the AMVs showed me Sasuke versus Naruto.
Linkin Park.
Yes.
Linkin Park. And then I wasn't into rap music, man, but the videos was touching my soul. I said, this is what it's like to be a teenager. The lyrics was hitting with you feel me? This is all bruh.
You saw the infamous Naruto versus Sasuke combo, like.
Oh man, yo, man! And then I saw them fighting on water. I said, "Yo, what's going on?" And I was like, "Yo, so who you like?" And I'm like, "Man, the dude with the blue is raw." But when when I saw like the whole fight, I saw like Naruto was cloning himself. I was like, "Nah, yeah, yo, forget homie in the blue, man." And I saw he had the red orange energy. He turned into the wolf, and then. I never seen choreography like that. You know what I'm saying? So it was like, it was just, it was a breath of fresh air. And then I felt like I cheated on Dragon Ball Z because I had to say like the choreography is better. I didn't want to admit it. I didn't want to admit it at the time, man.
I can see why you would say that. You know what? I would say, given the length, yes, Naruto is better choreographed.
Yeah, because that was my first time being introduced to Naruto. But then I didn't even know if I would ever experience in the US. Then I go home. You guys waited for it. Saturday, 8 p.m. Watch Naruto. And I'm like, oh, snap. Right? So for me, I was watching, but the tuning exams. Solidify. I say I'm not going nowhere. I'll watch the episode, you know. I saw them pass the test when they were taking the test before they went to go fight. And you had Gaara. I remember Gaara closing his eye to cheat to see the answers on it. Everybody had to use their ninja abilities. I said, dog, they're not even moving. And then the level of fear, number 23, 44, fail. And I was just like, dog, wow. I felt everything, all the things the kids were feeling, man. So now you get to the tuning exam. I remember Rock Lee, man. He took off the weights. And that's when I was like, yeah, this is it.
I think the tuning exam was a turning point for a lot of people, right? Because for me, they got me early, right? I stand by in terms of, again, a ninja-based series, Zabuza and Haku. In terms of your first antagonist, bro, like, that was the one.
The Saiyan saga of Naruto.
Yes, Tim. Kakashi lit the Sharingan and things just, everything just changed. You like, yo.
Yeah.
Even Zabuza's introduction, the man throws the sword and lands on top of, the sword is so big he lands on top of it and poses. Haku, the one-handed ice, you know what I'm saying? Like, but I think the tuning exams, you're right. The tuning exams hits a little bit differently, but to me, it was Haku and Zabuza.
I didn't really follow Haku and Zabuza, like, because I think something happened where I wasn't watching it consistent because they had changed. Toonami would change the air times at times, so I'm like, yo, I missed it. So when I finally caught it, it's the tuning exams, man, from start to finish. When Sasuke came back and broke Buddy's arms, I was like,
the forest of death, bro.
Yeah, I was like, this is it, man.
Arms.
And then when I saw it,
and it's raining blood, he takes out an umbrella. I'm like, yo, what is this? What's happening? You know,
man. The sound ninjas, and then like, you afraid, right? That dude terrified me. I was never scared in an anime. The one with the sound ninja with the hands.
Yeah, the amplifiers. Yeah.
Yeah. Not the kid with the holes in his hands.
The one that with the bandages.
The bandages. Yeah. Terrified, right? And so that was it, man. With One Piece, it was Don Krieg was the dude with the purple hair, right? With the shipwreck.
Yes, with the gold-plated armor everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this in a previous episode.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I'm watching it. I'm thinking, yo, man, you know, this is just a regular episode. And there was something about it. I guess it was on Sunday morning. A fresh wake up. It was just perfect, man. The atmosphere was perfect. Sundays remind me of the beach, right? So I'm watching it. I'm in good spirits. And then I see these guys take hostage the ship. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? Like, I'm like, why are they trying to take over this ship? This ship is ridiculous, right? But then now come to find out later episodes, they left because they was trying to get away from this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when the story, I was never used to storylines like that, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So it was like for me to experience that and follow it. And then I think when they introduced Ace, when he just kept falling asleep, that gimmick for me was so cool.
Because the characters all have personality. Yeah.
I've never seen anything like it before. I'm like, man, this dude is raw, man. What's his name? And then I think because I would watch it, and then what really did it for me is when I seen Luffy kill Arlong.
Well,
he didn't kill Arlong.
Yeah, he didn't kill him.
Yeah, he didn't kill him, but no, to me he killed him Because I saw the axe.
There's a lot of scenarios where these people should be dead.
I saw the axe kick. that to me was my favorite because I remember when Zoro had to fight the octopus with six swords, and then he's fighting right there. Sanji's not too far away because he's trying to help Zoro, but the fishman, mermaid, shark man with the ponytails was beating him. And I'm
with
like,
Fishman karate, it's like
Fishman karate. This man was beating him. I'm talking, and then he took him down to the depths and punching his ribs. And I was like, yo, this is crazy. And the suspense, everything was going on in this one port. Then you see Luffy trying to avoid Arlong because Arlong had the sharp pincer claws. And then yo, his nose can poke a hole through you. So I said, wait, he can actually cut him. He could hurt him. He could hurt Luffy. It was that. And then when they went to the port and I think Smoker was chasing them. And then Smoker was chasing them. And after that, Dragon came out of nowhere. And that was the last time we saw Dragon. Yeah. And that's when I was like, the character designs for me with One Piece, Smoker was the toughest thing I seen because he had the
two
jacket,
cigars for no reason.
Cigars for no reason. He had and for kids, it was just smoke coming out his mouth.
Yeah.
And he had I'm like, yo, that looks like a side, but like it's not sharp. And Luffy couldn't do nothing once it touched him. And then Zoro had to wind up saving him, and I was just like, yo, this is raw. I said, I hate the drawing, but I can't say this is not raw. That's what kept me. I said, the stuff they're doing is too crazy. And then I think fast forward, what really, really made me a Naruto fan was when I seen Kizaru.
Yeah, One Piece fan.
Yeah, that's what made me a One Piece fan. And that's when I decided to go all the way. Because I was watching One Piece in bits. I could and then one time it moved from 4 kids and I saw it on Toonami, but then they're in the desert now. So what happened? So then now I finally caught it at the Kizaru era. And my boy showed me, he said, Joey, you gotta watch this. I said, man, what's going on? So then he said, I said, they cut the man in half, Scratch Man Apple. I said, he's dead. Then I saw him reassemble himself. And that's when I was like,
we talked about this before. I'm like, again, to your point, it's like One Piece. I think one of the things that you said that I've had to think about, I'm like, One Piece will get you with the entrances, right? Because even with the Don Krieg thing, like you said, they're running, right? This guy, big buff battalion, like his whole army, they're running. Like, who are they running from? A buddy who shows up like this on the smallest boat ever with a hat on, right? He just sails up with the smallest boat, and he shows up after cutting another ship in half, casually. And you're just like, who is this man? Right?
Out of nowhere.
Ace. Big old thing of fire. Who is that? Oh, that's Luffy's brother. That's Luffy's brother? What?
And my reaction was the same reaction as the cartoon characters. My eyes popped out of my head.
Yeah.
I say,
they're sending an admiral. Okay, he's arriving shortly. You're like, are you about to on a
Garp throw?
Oh,
But that's not when Garp threw the anchor. Yeah, I stopped. I walked out the room.
And you're like,
when Garp he threw the anchor.
Okay.
and now you find out that's Luffy's grandpa. I'm like, no, man, this is nuts. And that's when he started to reassemble himself. Right, he kicked Draco Rex. Gone.
X Drake, yeah.
Come on. And he did what he did to all the other boys, and he started walking. Hey. And my thing was like, hey, where are you going? Then he beamed himself. One, I thought his beam, he was just controlling the light beam, regular attack. I said it's nothing I've seen before. I've seen this in Dragon Ball Z. They do it all the time. 1, 2, 3, zigzag. Who's at the end of the blast? Himself. Walked out the room, never looked back. I said, I have to watch this.
Yeah.
I have to watch this.
I want to ask you about the Bleach thing, and then we'll move on to the next part of it, because I do want to get more into it. I think what's funny. I started later than you guys with One Piece because I started watching it 4Kids era as well, and I thought this is the silliest thing ever. I'm not watching this ever again. And then to Jory's point, the AMVs brought me back. The crocodile fight. I'm watching Luffy punch this man through a roof. Just like you're hearing the music. I'm just like, this is One Piece?
Yeah.
Next AMV. Yeah. Next AMV. He's fighting Lucci. And I'm like, this is One Piece? And it on paper, it sounds like the silliest concept you've ever heard. A rubber man fights a half man, half leopard. And it is the most intense thing you have ever seen in your entire existence. And I was just like, wait, what? You know what I'm saying? You would just see certain things. You're just like, I think at some point, we're talking about documentaries. There got to be a documentary about the AMV era of anime and what it did for, the impact it had on converting us skepticals on like getting into series.
Mortal Kombat theme song will always be infinite. You can't beat it. The Brawley Mortal Kombat AMVs.
Yeah.
Side note, sorry to go off topic. But I didn't give you how I
I was waiting because you was giving One Piece all this praise. I'm like, bro, Bleach.
Yeah, okay. So to be honest with you, I hated Bleach, right? Let me tell you why. Artist, I
find that to be shocking.
Yeah, because Bleach, when it first started, wasn't amazing, right? I would go to the manga store and I'd see it like, what the heck is Bleach? Mm. Why would you name your series Bleach? This is stuff I clean my house with.
Fair.
It makes to this day I still don't know why it's called Bleach. I don't know if it's an acronym. I don't know why he called it Bleach. Did his mom die, and after that, it's dedicated to his mom, whatever. So I still don't know to this day. So it was the AMV that got me in the Bleach, man. It was when I had my boy was telling me, said, no, Jory, we're ninth graders. He's like, no, Jory, you don't understand. You gotta watch Bleach. I said, I'm not watching no Bleach, man. Who is this Ichigo, whatever, da 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 da. His sword is corny. It's a butter knife. And I was like, I was just going in on homie, dog. I'm like, yo, man, homie fighting with a giant butter knife. He fighting Casper the Ghost and a Japanese Komodo. What a waste, right? Then I seen the fight with homie with the roses. I was like, this might actually, this might actually be raw.
This is who?
Yeah.
Byakuya.
Oh, okay.
I said,
cherry blossoms.
Yeah, I said, yo, if one petal hits you, it's like 1,000 cuts.
Mm-hmm.
But what you gonna do with there's like 1,000 cherry blossoms? I'm like, what you gonna do with me? And then I was watching it and it got me. And I was like, I'm still not gonna give it to Bleach. That's just one. I treated Bleach like, y'all remember this show on 4Kids or Jetix called Shinzo?
Nah.
No.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Go. I sent you one time the one of the clips.
Okay. Okay.
I'll send it in the chat after. You guys will have a ball, man. But yeah, I treated it just like that. I did not respect it until one day I see Ichigo fighting with his Super Saiyan form, the little black, the black
Bankai.
The
black Bankai, right? So then I see this dude with blue hair and white, white gi. I'm like, okay, and he got a hole in his chest. I'm like, okay, and he got like a mask on. I'm like, okay, and I'm looking at the AMV, and then Ichigo's go for a cut, and he catches it. I said, you can't do that in the anime. You can't just grab the sword. He grabbed the sword, kid. Besides Goku, you feel me?
Yeah.
Besides Goku and that Trunks coming back from Yard Drag, he grabbed the sword and he split Ichigo with no blade. And he started doing the Bruce Lee taunt. Found out his name was Grim Joe Jagger. I was like, nah. Went back, Toonami, had popcorn and kid, and that was it. And it was it from there, man. And then the episode I decide to watch Bleach, I see there's this madman with an eye patch. I'm like, this is the dumbest looking character I ever seen in my life, though,
You
right?
are fucking. Kenpachi's design is goated.
Found out the eye patch is to suppress his power, kid. And then I was like, nah, man, these boys is foolishness now. So that's when I was like, okay, this might be crazy. Because that's when I start
gold hid.
That's when I started watching it, man. I was like, you know what, man?
That second
this might
half,
be raw.
Captain, bro. When you going back to Tim's point, and I think we're all in agreement with that. The character designs were immaculate. The eye patch to suppress your fighting ability. The fact that he wears earrings on his hair because he doesn't want to sneak up on anybody. He wants them to know exactly where he's at all times. Walks up to Ichigo, says, "Cut me wherever you want." It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
And then I never seen so many powerful people on one screen. And then you can tell they can clap you just by how they look. Once I saw homie with the beard looking like Mitsurugi from Soul Calibur, I said, nah. And then you had dude with the white hair. And then you had Byakuya. Then it was just like, and then I knew the scientist was a problem because I remember him stepping on the girl head, stomping her head.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, yeah, man. And
so
you find,
I guess to kind of keep it going, and how do you guys feel? Like to Tim's point earlier, right? These series in a lot of ways have continued. We kind of deep dive into Naruto. Naruto got its own segment on one of our previous podcasts. We don't really have to rehash it. How do you guys feel like as these big three? How do you guys feel like the impact has held up today, right? I think, I know I breathed a big sigh of relief, right, when Bleach was coming back. And although it's my least favorite arc in the entire story, they're doing the animation right? The animation is quality, right? They're not giving it like a half-hearted job. You can tell that there's being effort and detail being put into it, right? Like to Tim's point earlier, One Piece, our first little viral clip was One Piece, and how the anime has just continued to get better. It just continues to get better. The pacing is horrible, right? Because they're doing like half a chapter an episode, but boy.
when it does deliver.
When it does deliver, you're just like, yo, this is cinema. How do you guys feel like the is the respect for the big three, does it still hold up today? Do we still see, they're essentially the movers and shakers of the anime industry. Do you guys still feel like their impact is felt in modern anime?
Definitely yes. Because like when I first started My Hero, like especially when they expanded on the rest of the characters outside of Deku, I was like, wow, this is exactly what Naruto should have been.
Mm-hmm.
Because I kind of felt like, all right, after the Sound Ninja 4 arc, I kind of felt like it was a lot of wasted potential on expanding on all the other characters, like really giving them significant like pinnacle story moments, like don't just give me like a very mindless filler. Like I don't want that. I want something that has great continuity to it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like My Hero, like that, especially like when they did their first exams, I was like, bro.
Yeah.
Like this is great. Like because at the end of the day, you thought Deku was gonna win. Like, no, Bakugo was the one who won. And he's like, because like when I saw him fight Shoto, I was like, bro, I really don't know who's going to win.
Mm-hmm.
Like soon as the man said start, he hit him with the ice wall, but Bakugo was like, and it's like, dude just kept going and going and going. And
yeah, that was amazing, man.
And to this day, that's a rematch I still would like to see. Because, the reason why Bakugo won was because, Shoto had a little mental moment of like, discouragement.
Yeah.
But it's like, who would have really won if they would have both just been fully present?
Right.
To get back on the topic, yeah, you see a lot of influences. Dragon Ball Z, like, and then, to go back to like Joy's point, you see a lot more choreography now. No, actually, no, Naruto. Yeah, that's for Naruto. Yeah, you see definitely a lot more fight scene choreography now. Like, I feel that's where Dragon Ball Z kind of just went downhill. Was like it just like they left technique for just graphics. And even like to go into on the One Piece side of things, don't be afraid to be silly.
Right. Okay.
Like have some genuine, very humor moments.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, my hero, the little grape head little boy, like, yeah, he's a pervert. He's a pervert. He's a
Hilarious.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
he's
Hilarious.
he's a pervert. Or even just like the sex appeal of women, like the girl who literally makes weapons outside of her own skin.
Mm.
And sometimes when they show silhouettes of her, and the fact that there's one girl out there who's entirely invisible.
Yeah. Well, for all we know, it's naked, right? Like, because it's her power.
And then and it's so crazy. It's like she'll wear clothes.
Yeah.
So it's a like you see a lot of like subtle stuff, like big or small, but you definitely do see the influences, because I do feel like as people are growing through the generations, or just have something like have a bit of relatability, like yes, like as the generations grew and we started watching new animes, like, oh yeah, this is like Naruto, and you'll pass it down to somebody else.
Right. Because to your point, like I think like not for nothing, Jujutsu Kaisen is basically the new era's Bleach, right? It's dealing with spirits and cursed energy and fighting with the dark side, like the hollow, right?
Thought out Bleach.
Yes, yeah, a Bleach with better writing. Like not for nothing.
A well thought out Bleach, man. I was sad, man. I was sad with Jujutsu Kaisen because I was like, man, I know he's watching this saying, look at what I did and what I could have done, because Jujutsu Kaisen's story is pretty, the whole, even they got even the Yu-Gi-Oh element to where they can change the field of their combat to give them powers.
Yeah.
So that's like, that was cool. And I thought Jujutsu Kaisen was pretty sick because of that.
Well, I mean, I guess you can go into your point, Joy, about like how do you feel like the influence of the big three has shaped the industry? You guys, again, you feel like, in your opinion, the respect is still being held at a high note for those?
Because I mean, if we can still have an all-star basketball player, there's an anime that's gonna generate a lot of interest of a lot of people. It's possible. It's still possible. Like I can let's take Spider-Man for example, right? This is a little off, but Spider-Man still has the consistency and interest that it did when the PlayStation 1. I would still play, you know what I'm saying? So it's absolutely possible. And so because of that, it's absolutely a fact that they still have an influence and an impact. I still think a big three is important. Now you don't have to allocate your anime to do that, but there's just going to be an anime with mass appeal. My Hero Academia did it. No, its first seasons, those were like movie 2. Even
movie 1, not for nothing. Go ahead.
Yeah, movie 1, of course. But 7 Deadly Sins, there was definitely you can tell that they were going for that. But it was more well thought out, better choreography. Jujutsu Kaisen's fight scene where they're jumping, they're double teaming. They're double teaming.
Buddy,
that guy.
You're just throwing hands.
So yeah, absolutely, man. No doubt about it, man. And then I think this is going to give way for more things that are interesting. So,
okay.
And that's pretty much it.
Okay. I mean, I think it's in. You can see the influence and respect in some ways. I think, again, going back to our previous episode, I think Naruto suffered the most, right? I think Boruto is doing more damage to the legacy of the franchise than help, in my opinion. But I think obviously One Piece is getting better and better, right? It's getting better regarded. I'm still holding out hope for that One Piece Fighters announcement at this point. It's starting to get more and more acclaim. And then with Bleach, I think Bleach is just kind of respected as that OG. You know what I'm saying? Like, you see Bleach, you see Ichigo, you're just like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? That was the time that influence still kind of holds weight. These concepts still, you know what I'm saying? Aizen is he always makes, I want to say, like the top 5 Shonen Jump anime villains of all time. You know what I'm saying? I think
absolutely is.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So you have those things where it's like, I think that respect will always be there. But it's just interesting as, times change. things kind of get older, more forgotten about. It's, I'm always curious to see like what kind of gets held in that same regard. All right, so getting into our next topic, right? When it comes to, again, the big three influence, and we've been talking about it and referencing it multiple times throughout this episode, and how the impact of One Piece just continues to grow and grow and grow. And one thing that I've noticed, and I mentioned it in the group chat to y'all prior to this podcast recording, is that it would seem, and again, one conspiracy take per episode, it would seem to me like Toei Animation is starting to slowly but surely allocate a lot of the resources that might have been typically used for Dragon Ball and pouring it into One Piece. I follow a lot of animators on Twitter. I follow a lot of people who keep track of the animation side of things, and you're seeing a lot of the more legendary animators from Japan who made their name on Dragon Ball and even Dragon Ball Super being brought into the One Piece episodes. Right? There's a reason why we're getting the Sanji versus Queen fights, the Zoro versus King fights, and having them look that way. And you're just seeing the storyboards get crazier and crazier. They're bringing in freelance talent to make sure that One Piece is constantly at this high clip. And then you compare that to Dragon Ball, where it's like we got a CGI movie. Now, granted, I think superheroes are a lot better than people give it credit for. But in comparison, it's just like, what do you guys feel where it's like people have kind of been, begging and pleading for Dragon Ball Super to return in some form of fashion? We're at a place as of this recording where the Dragon Ball Super manga is literally just a recap of the superhero movie. We're on our 20th, it feels like, Xenoverse 2 DLC, right? Do you guys feel like, it is One Piece Toei's new Dragon Ball for the next generation?
I think
Hi, Jory.
yeah, I think with Dragon Ball Z, because manga usually comes out first before the anime, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now they're running into problems with continuity. You have two different storylines going on at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
In the manga, Gohan was fighting Kale.
Yeah,
but in the anime, it's Goku. Kefla.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, yo, what's going on? Goku Black turns Super Saiyan Pink 2. Doesn't do it in the...
No, first he goes Super Saiyan and Super Saiyan 2.
He goes Super Saiyan. Then he goes Super Saiyan 2. Like it. So I'm like, what is this?
Mm-hmm.
Now you got two different storylines. So now they realize that this is, I don't think there's a good, strong planning team for Dragon Ball. But the thing is, Oda's behind his series still. Oda's there surveying.
Mm-hmm.
Oda's influence in hand is still present. Versus Toriyama's presence is, he doesn't even know what to do with the storyline at this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't care. You know what I'm saying? So, so like what's now you need what Dragon Ball Z needs to do, and I think they can either do a soft reboot or do it Hunter X. I think they're going to, because there's talks of it. Because
I think it's too late for a reboot for Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, like, while I could see your point, why that would probably kind of breathe new life into the series. I think it's I joke a lot with you guys about how it's the toy franchise at this point. There's too much invested in terms of the merch and the forms and the collectible figurines. Like, they're not taking it back to Dragon Ball roots at this point.
No, not Dragon Ball. Not Dragon Ball. Like because Dragon. I mean, like, when I say Dragon Ball Z, like, they'll probably reboot that, but not to Dragon Ball.
No, but he's talking about everything as a whole.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, as a whole, it's just there's too many like cemented markets, right? Where it's like, you'll see the toy collectors online. They got 4 different versions of Trunks cutting Frieza in half, right? Like, they're making money. They're making too much money for it to kind of like, let's get back to basics or have an alternate timeline of a Dragon Ball. I think it'd be more like, how can they salvage it going forward? And I think, to your point, you're right. I think the conflicting timelines, Toriyama not being as hands-on as he used to be. Bless you.
Bless you.
Thank you.
there's a lot of things that kind of factor. Toyotaro kind of being not
Horrible.
the greatest writer,
Horrible.
when it comes to the manga. But then to your point about them not having a plan, like they announced, I think it was the end of 2021, that Toei had hired an exclusive set of staff that only works on Dragon Ball projects. They literally called it the Dragon Room, where it's like those are the kind of like the brainstorming clientele to push new content for Dragon Ball. But I guess like going back to Tim, let me ask you again the same question. Do you think One Piece is kind of being pushed as like the replacement of like, okay, we see this as being like our next big thing over Dragon Ball?
I would say it's half and half. It's in terms of popularity, yes, because it has a very strong brand name. But in terms of like reach into different markets, not yet. I feel like it did during the PS2 era. Like when we had them like One Piece fighters back in that area. Like, yes, now we have more like the open world RPGs type of stuff. And the Pirate Warriors, the Dynasty Warriors style gameplay. Like it was good, but it didn't slap the hardest like the PS2 era. I do feel if they give those properties like more of like a revival, I would say yes. Because even in the movies, they're still doing good with that. Even though the last one was technically like a musical.
It was a musical. Not technically, it was a musical.
But like it's still the fact that they're still pushing weight in those other different forms of media. I just feel like if the video game component was a bit stronger, I would say yes.
Okay, so you feel like that One Piece, its secondary market is holding it back, basically. Okay, I could see that because you're right. I mean, let's just call it for what it is. As much as the main storyline entries of Dragon Ball kind of suffers, the games have been hitting, not for nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like Fighters is being kind of, it's slowly hitting like that modern classic status in terms of a fighting game. It's transcended the anime niche. It's like it's in Evo every year. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it's there. Where it's like the secondary media of Dragon Ball continues to stay strong, whereas like One Piece, like to Tim's point, if you're not into the open worlds-esque games, if you're not into the Dynasty Warrior games, One Piece doesn't really have anything for you. Even
they dropped the ball.
Yeah.
They dropped the ball in one of those games where you could actually play as Luffy and having attacks. It's like, why don't you give One Piece the Spider-Man budget?
And they have the money for it. They can.
And why don't you give it the Spider? Because what was that One Piece game where you're playing as One Piece? You could actually do the pistol. You're controlling him. There's parts where you can go into like you can control a cursor.
That was One Piece World Seeker.
You
can only play as Luffy, pretty much.
You can only play as Luffy, and I'm like, okay, why are you doing this? Why would you even do this if you're gonna go this route? They're so bizarre. They are very bizarre. I'm like, these are your flagship movie series, and you guys don't put budget behind it. If you put budget behind it, you guys will make the money. Guaranteed. One Piece World is that's the one game that should be an open world game. You already have Wind Waker.
Right? I prefer more of a fighter.
But there's room for both.
But there's room for both. You don't have to just do one.
Yeah.
You don't have to just do one. You could do a fighter. You could do a Scratchman Apple. You could do a Scratchman Apple where he's a playable character. Those dudes. You could do a tag system. You got your I would even accept a One Piece game in the light of Naruto. The way Naruto yeah, but it's not played out now. But I would accept it if they did do it. If they would have stretched out the market, I'd take it. I'd take it. I wouldn't. To be honest with you, I'd take it. Right. But I think the market is open. But for me, One Piece World is interesting. The bubble coding. Imagine a mission for that. Having that to coach your ship. Or you create your own One Piece character and have your character go into the world. Like they could literally do a hub world of One Piece.
Yeah.
Where One Piece has the Disney charm to it, That's just one thing.
That's
one
true.
thing I never understood about just Toei, man. I just never understood about that about them, man. But like, they should definitely do it. They definitely can do it. I don't think I'm going off topic. Am I?
No, you're not. I
Oh.
think you're giving an alternate point to what Tim said. Like, I think it's I didn't think about it from that angle. But I think it is the secondary marketing. And like you said, it's like we're not getting outside of maybe like the figurine market, right? If you're a toy collector, you're not really getting a high quality One Piece product, right? Where it's like even with the movies, right? You know, we've talked about this. I think Film Z was great. Strong World was great. Even the one with Bullet, Stampede was good.
Probably
But
the best one.
Yeah, but then you have One Piece Gold, not so good. This last one, a musical. You know what I'm saying? Where it's just like
too many L's.
Norris. Yeah, it's like what you know what I'm saying? Animation was A1, right? It's like they even, you know, when you watch the movie, they kind of give like a sneak peek of Gear 5. But it's just like it was a musical with a dream world, and Shanks is the one arm Chuck Norris of the franchise. He can keep up with Kizaru, can move at the speed of light. He
lost
can
his arm for no reason.
Yeah, might as well be a plot hole at this point. Like, you mean to tell me the man with the hockey to see the future couldn't get hit? Okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's the things that kind of would take One Piece to that, like, this is it. Like, it's you know, it reigns supreme. Like, going back to our 90s conversation real quick, it's like Tim said, there was a point you couldn't even escape Dragon Ball if you wanted to. They had Dragon Ball paper plates, lunch boxes, book bags. Like Tim said, the things changed when Budokai dropped. For, you know, it hasn't aged the greatest, but things changed when Budokai 1 dropped.
The legacy of Goku.
Even the art community. Remember, like back in high school, people used to come to high school with all the printed images
and
just share them. Like, oh, you found a rare one. Like, where did you get this one from?
Well, now we talking.
Yeah, but no, you printed homemade Yu-Gi-Oh cards, dog. Crazy, man.
Now we talking. Now you're right. No, you're absolutely right. I think that's where One Piece has been struggling. Like, they just don't. There's some weird disconnect of, like, Toei is like, it's like they're kind of afraid. It feels like you can tell that they kind of want to replace Dragon Ball, right? Because they might be just running out of ideas, right? Where One Piece is still kind of going, and to your point, there'll probably be One Piece Disneyland in about 5 years, right? The world's just so dense. But it just, you know, you can kind of tell where it's like, obviously the budget's there for the anime, right? Like, even this past week's episode, I'm like, bro, last week's episode was Law and Kid against Big Mom. Not a straw hat in sight. And you're just like, this animation is just, we're getting art.
And it made you like Kid, man. It made me like Kid more. I never hated him because I think that Bounty episode of One Piece made those guys amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That was probably one of my favorite episodes, when they're introducing these new other One Piece head-to-head honchos. Mm-hmm. Yeah, supernovas. Yeah, man. So I think One Piece has so much it could do, man. I wish I had a property like that, man.
I think all of us do.
You could do with One Piece. You can do a Final Fantasy classic tactical, which they have, but it just, I don't know if it's that popular.
It's not that
right.
I think it's whatever that was, Odyssey. It's not doing too hot. It's not doing too hot. And the graphics are good. I think it's, you know, like the gameplay wise, I played the demo. I was like, I'm not mad at this. But to Tim's point, it's just not like hitting. Like,
it needs to be able to, like, gravitate people in different forms of ecosystems. Like, you know, to go back to like the Digimon point that I said, yes, Digimon had a very strong anime. It also had strong games. It also had
toys.
Yes.
See, look. So you have different forms. You have media, you have merchandise, and then you also have, like I said, like, you know, the digital world, which is video games itself. Like, it had different ecosystems that just brought, like, all people together as a whole. Like, because you were intertwining in both of them, whether you liked them or not.
Right. Them
A
Digivoices,
Digimon.
boy. Woo.
Oh man, a Digimon. Sorry to cut you off, but a Digimon like Pokemon.
I mean, Digimon Rumble Arena on PlayStation. Y'all don't remember that?
Yeah,
I remember. It was.
I mean, it was glitchy. You know,
Yeah,
it
it
broke.
was.
You know, it wasn't balanced at all. But I think they were trailblazers in that way of like, look how long it took for us to get Pokken. You know what I'm saying? Like, like in comparison to when Rumble Arena came out.
Yeah, like when you really look back at like a lot of like PS2 titles, like especially that was a very hardcore era for that type of anime, bro. I remember like the Yu-Gi-Oh game on Duelist. I think it was Duelist of
Duelist of
Roses,
Roses. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
bro. Like that was one of the most, bro. It was an epic. It was an epic era, bro. And that's why I kind of feel it's still alive till this day. Like you need all of those markets for it to be that solid iron fist of an anime franchise.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. And I guess perfect segue to our last topic of the night, right? We're kind of discovering these segments the more we record, right? We're talking about these powerhouses, and what bigger powerhouse than the name we've been mentioning all night as well, Dragon Ball, right? We've alluded at it. We've spoken and thrown jabs here and there, and let's really get to it. Dragon Ball, right? Dragon Ball continues to make millions upon millions in revenue, even for a film that's as divisive as superhero, right? Like when Tim and I did our review, I enjoyed it a lot more than Tim did, but I also understood Tim's points, right? The things that he kind of pointed out, I'm like, no, this is true, and I could see why you would not like the movie as much as I did. But it still made millions upon millions of dollars. It was a box office hit, right? You're looking at the manga. For as lopsided as Toritaro's stories are, character design wise, people really like Moro. People really like Granola and the concepts behind these characters, right? The magician goat, you know, who's lived thousands upon thousands of years. This basically the modern day Tuffle, Dragon Ball Super, who has a vendetta against not only the Saiyans but against Frieza. Like you're seeing all these characters. You're seeing the what are they called, the Heaters, is basically BoJack and his crew, right? So it's not that Dragon Ball is suffering from, I would say, burnout in terms of places the series can go, right? I think it's having some of the same problems that One Piece secondary media has, where it's just like at some point, it being the Goku Vegeta show was cool, right? Because it allowed them to put a little bit more respect on Vegeta. Right, Vegeta used to be like the punching bag of the series for a while. Like he was cool, he did all these cool things, but then would get bodied, right? And now we're seeing Vegeta as like a legit, obviously Goku's still the main character, right? But we've seen Vegeta kind of stand out in his own right as his own threat. They've kind of put some respect on Gohan, right? For as much as I didn't like Piccolo's new forms, Piccolo can now hang with the best of them. Piccolo, it's like he's not just a supporting character the way Krillin and Tien are. Right. So you're seeing all these things where it's like, okay, I can see that you guys have these good ideas that can still be implemented. Right. But I guess like my question to you guys is like, where do you guys think it's being, like, opportunities are being missed for Dragon Ball?
I would say story continuity. I feel it's centered around the transformations.
Okay.
I feel like they're doing too much at a very fast rate that they don't know what to do with them anymore. Because to be honest, I kind of feel as of now the God transformations are pointless. The Super Saiyan God ones, like the with the red and the blue, I feel like they're pointless now, because when you really understand as a that's why I like them more as techniques versus transformations. Like Ultra Instinct is technically a technique. Ultra Ego is technically a technique. I like that much more logic. And then what I really enjoyed about the Tournament of Power was the other universe of Saiyans, how they brought more respect to Super Saiyan 1 and Super Saiyan 2, and even when, because one of them was about to turn Super Saiyan 3, they were bringing respect back to past transformations that kind of just got swept under the rug when Barris just came.
Right.
And it's like, and they've showed you like, yes, like, no, these forms are not irrelevant. Like,
right.
I can still throw hands with you as a Super Saiyan God. I can still throw hands with you at a Super Saiyan 2.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like the power scaling was kind of just all over the place. Like, when 17 came back next, he's the power like of the Super Saiyan God. And it's like, yeah, I mean, I appreciated the power up, but it's like a lot of this stuff wasn't really make sense. Like, yeah, like Piccolo's new transformations, I enjoyed it because, many years ago during, Toonami's prime, we were hinted that Lord Slug is a super Namek, but
Mm-hmm.
we never saw what a super Namek was
Mm-hmm.
until years later now.
Right. And you can see even more where it's like, I think you talked about this during the review, Tim, where you're just like, you can see that there's more lore there between, Shenron giving Piccolo that power up and even the tree insignia. Like there's something deeper here in like Namekian lore.
Yeah, and it's just like they don't really explore that stuff because I thought when Piccolo met the other Nameks that maybe he wanted to explore his culture more because you thought that's what when he first went to Namek, literally that's one of the most biggest YouTube clips. I'm home. I'm alive. But then it's
I
like,
could do this. Yes, yes.
but then after that saga, you kind of just got complacent again. Like, yeah, when Dende came, yeah, you finally have somebody to connect with. But I would have thought, like, you mean to tell me Piccolo doesn't want to get to know his own race?
Mm-hmm.
Wild.
Because
Even
that's something Vegeta still longs for. Because I do feel like moving forward, I feel like Vegeta is going to actually develop a better bond with Broly than Goku is, because Broly is the last Saiyan that technically understands Saiyan culture as much as Vegeta.
Right.
Like, Goku,
Goku's basically an Earthling.
yeah.
Let's just call it for what it is.
So like at least so now, and I think that's why Vegeta enjoyed the fight with Broly so much. It's because he felt that connection in terms of like culture and sparring together, that true warriorship in a sense. Like where like with Goku, he said, "But you're a clown."
Yeah.
So like yes, like in terms of like continuity, lore, and just like these power-ups, man, they really gotta just get a hold of it, man, because right now it's kind of like, and to go on the video game side, bro, look at fighters, bro. We had almost literally like 8 Gokus.
Yeah. No, it might actually be 8 Gokus. I think your number is on the money.
For basic level things, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Basic level things. So I do feel like that's something that they really have to get in hold of, because like Naruto is a prime example. When Sasuke and Naruto lost their arms, you still seeing Sasuke using all the powers that he had, but then Naruto's like, hey, where's the rest of the stuff that Naruto had? Oh, we're not going to explain it. Okay.
Right. He can't fly anymore. He can't do. Yeah.
But Sasuke can still do planetary. Okay. So like it's a lot of back and forth, and then I do feel like they need to make better marks about like, all right, what's canon, what's not, and what really matters and not. Because like how you said, bro, from Dragon Ball era, bro, like Tien, Krillin, Yamcha, bro, those were some OGs now, bro. But then now look at them.
Mm-hmm.
So
they're
like
almost like a joke character, all of them.
So like even now, like you bring it back into androids. You're making them relevant characters again. But then how far is it going to go until you just fumble back to the Saiyans?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Troy, what's your thoughts?
I mean, for me, with Dragon Ball Z, yeah, the stories are not like well planned, man, and the conclusions and the payoffs are horrible.
Oh yes, because I tell my best friend this all the time. Dragon Ball Super ruined Trunks.
Destroyed Trunks. They destroying a lot of characters, to be honest with you. Like, they ruined Kid Trunks, and that was my favorite Trunks. The one where you see Trunks. Trunks is like Dennis the Menace. You know, and I liked how Goten was like innocent, but like would tag along because
that's his best friend.
That's his best friend. Trunks' personality, even during the tournament, when he said, okay, Goten, I'm going to win the tournament and you're just going to lose. And he's like, I'm not going to just lose. And you get to see Goten's actually putting up resistance. He's like, Goten does care about being a good fighter. He's just a little bit more, he's more ang
Yeah.
than he is Goku.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So I love that dynamic. Right. And then now it means absolutely nothing. Because even in Super, Trunks is afraid to talk to girls. That he's Bulma and Vegeta combined. He's gonna be the most arrogant person in the world. Right. But now you don't get any of that. So it's like the stories don't make sense. They turn Moro was ridiculous. Goku turned using Sasuno to like the payoffs is how you already have Turles, and now you're gonna use. Now I'm ranting now. You got Turles. You already have Turles. Now you want to turn him to Goku Black, and the names.
Well, technically, most of the movie characters are not canon.
Yeah,
but the thing, you see where there's a problem with that, Tim. I already know that there's a Turles, and it don't even help that you bring him back in the Super, and he's in the video game as a prime villain. It don't help. It don't help because in my mind, I'm thinking, yo, this is just Turles again. It don't help. You know what I'm saying? Especially us
who grew up in there. I was gonna say it's funny because we've all talked about this, right? It's like the fans' conspiracy theories of it being either an older Goten who got taken over, or it would have been better if he had stolen the body of an alternate future Gohan. Would have made for a much more compelling story than, like you said,
it would have been way better.
Turles, essentially.
Turles again, right? And now, not only that, so now, okay, you have that. Then you have Goku using Sasuno. Turns into a giant. Vegeta goes to do yard jet training, only to do what? Not be able to use anything. Moro is the perfect opportunity to introduce a new factor into Dragon Ball Z. Squandered. Man. You have now you're panicking, right? We don't know what to do.
You cooking, bro. Go.
We don't know what to do, right? We don't know what to do. Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh, man. What do we do? Pirates are interesting now, right? We already have a pirate. His name's Bojack. Why not introduce all these villains we have into the main series? You just revamp them. We got something. You give yourself time. I think that would have saved Dragon Ball Z way more than even rebooting. Now there's talks of them rebooting, rumors, because they're like, yo, if we reboot, we're gonna change Goku's design. Goku's still gonna have the same. Like, for me, this is if they gave me the task, SS rank, Super SS rank, we need your help. Save Dragon Ball. Here's the first thing I do, right? And on the table, okay, this you have to reboot it. How would you do it? Where would you start? I'd start off Dragon Ball Z. Everybody's already everybody, right? Right? You go on from there. Fix up certain things. Fix up the Frieza Force, right? Why is Cooler not present if Cooler is here? You know, why let all these things be squandered? I don't need a Head Shack. Head Shack is sick, right? But nobody knows about Head Shack like that unless you play the video games or you had that video game that came with the movie.
Yeah.
Expand upon the truffles. What happens if why don't okay, if you want to introduce Saiyans from another universe, their Super Saiyan 4 is the one with the fur. Over here, the Saiyans don't have tails, so they don't get to have that. They do not get to have that perk. Prime example. You know, they need to expand upon the spectrum of fighting. You know, expand upon the spectrum of fighting and power levels. Rock Lee is the perfect Super Saiyan. What do you mean? He is. Think about it. He has gates. It's levels, but they come with cost. Let's do that. Now you have a wild card situation for every fight. You know?
Where everyone kind of uses their Super Saiyan differently.
Everybody uses their Super Saiyan differently. Why do all the Saiyans have... And, you know, it doesn't have to be such of a dramatic change to the point where, like, you know, it could be just like Pokemon. Like, okay, my Eevee doesn't know Razor Blade. It knows Hyper Beam.
Razor Blade.
Razor Leaf, yeah, Razor Leaf. My bad. Yo, I'm so far from Pokemon, homie. Like far, bro, far.
It's like,
You
man,
know,
you being kind of violent here. You're talking about razor
I
blade.
know. I said Razor Blade, man. My bad. But yeah, like it just doesn't make any sense. You have all these properties. Cooler. Why is it just cooler? Why was King Cold so easy to kill?
Mm-hmm.
If he was really that strong.
Dude, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, another thing, is it only Frieza's race that's a part of the faction? Bojack, what's his thing? Where's he from? So if he's the pirate, there's got to be other pirates.
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense, right? So like the whole universe of Dragon Ball Z could be the Shenrons. Where do they come from?
Why are there so many?
Why are there so many? There's Super Dragon Ball planets, right? For me, I'm like, man, you have the. What if the Dragon Balls are made from a piece, right? What if the Namex were actually the first race to actually exist? That's why they have all this knowledge and wealth of knowledge. You have all these space operas, all these space series, where you can actually make Dragon Ball Z almost 20 times more amazing. Toriyama always talks about how he's inspired by Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Here you go. Let's see some of that true inspiration. I would actually make stuff make sense. Instead of say this only saying certain Saiyans can only go up to level 3 and that's it. If a Saiyan wants to learn, if a Saiyan chooses to prestige, he can compress all his Saiyan powers into one chamber, allowing him to reach multiple levels. Let there be Saiyan lore. You know, like do what One Piece is almost amazing at this, right? Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because Anaru was so terrifying to me because he could but then you find out it's just haki.
It's just haki, yeah.
So now when you go back and revisit, they're like, yo, if y'all saw Katakuri on any of these feats, y'all have been a regular episode Putty from Power Rangers.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes these series interesting, and it makes the series more actual without being actual.
Yeah.
Right? You had a good start. What made me so angry about Dragon Ball Z superheroes was the first 3 minutes where they show you the recap.
Oh. In top tier animation.
That's when I was like, why did you not just... I saw Cell and Super Vegeta point at himself like the Toonami segment that we lose our minds after.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the Prince of all Saiyans once again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What are you doing? And then even with Cell Max, I literally thought he was gonna absorb both of them. I was hoping he did, and we get
I'm kind of glad he didn't.
Yeah, that would have been too redundant.
It would have been
too redundant.
Copy and paste at that point. Too copy and paste.
Well, I mean, it's already Cell coming back.
Yeah, that was actually part of Tim's and I discussions because I know Tim at the time he wasn't crazy about Cell not kind of being brought back, so to speak. And my pushback was, let's just say, right, that in the storyboard, right, at some point Cell Max has to be a thing, right? All things leads back to Cell Max. Would we want, as you know me, I'm a Cell Saga art defender to the day I die. Would we want to see that character go the Cell Max route? Like, I would rather it be a completely different Cell. If we have to go Cell Kaiju, let it be someone who is completely disassociated from Perfect Cell.
And that's what got me so hot, because I'm like, they just tried Gohan, movie 13, Harudagar. Like,
it's true.
He was Harudagar.
He was, but I would rather them do it like that than spit on, Perfect Cell. Because we look at Golden Frieza. It took away from Frieza's legacy. You know what I'm saying? Like, Cell, at this point, Cell still has that, like, he's that dude still.
Yeah, because like Golden Frieza, like I told Anthony, I was expecting like a cooler transformation because that's what Cooler said. He's like, because when Cooler fought Goku in the movie, that was technically his final form, like how Frieza did on Namek. He said, I found a fourth beyond it. So I was expecting that, but then I was like, but I look at this color plated hyper mode, and I'm just
Yeah, man. I'm like, yo, I got Lakers colors on. I was upset.
Mm-hmm.
and then the fact that once again they took away Vegeta's win, I was like, bro, no, come on, bro. That's why I told people, throw Resurrection F away, just throw it away, because I could have felt that if he was gonna go that route to make Frieza relevant again, I felt the most smarter route was like how you just said, bring in Cooler. Because you mean to tell me Frieza's been dead 15 plus years after Majin Buu and all that other stuff? How is this army still together?
Mm-hmm.
How? And don't tell me these little stooges are the ones that kept this army from going bankrupt, especially, I guess this sort of canon or not. But when Vegeta went into space during the Garlic Jr. saga, you basically got the impression that Vegeta decimated
What was left of the Frieza Force?
what was left of it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, Cooler would have made sense. Well, my father and my brother are dead. I'm the one who kept the family legacy alive.
Mm-hmm. Which would then give more sense of the animosity that him and Frieza have for each other. Like, you were considered the chosen one, but I was the one that held this together.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point.
Oh, Tim, go ahead. Say what you gonna say.
Yeah, so like I said, man, like Cell, like that's the kaiju battle. First of all, like, all right, anything past the Great Ape, we don't want kaiju battles no more.
Yo, and then Piccolo turns into a kaiju himself.
Yeah, because
I could not believe it, man.
Yeah, because like when Piccolo first did it, that was amazing in Dragon Ball.
Mm-hmm.
When Vegeta basically crushed Goku's legs as a great ape, that was great. That was great. After that, bro, we don't want no more kaiju battles, bro. We don't want that no more.
Ultraman Tiga, you feel me? Like, yo, like, where are we going with this, man? And then right, and then what even makes me even more angry? You guys ever seen the Dragon Ball Z 2008 special?
Yeah. Yes.
In Japanese, where it's done by the One Piece team
with Vegeta's younger brother, Tarbo. Yeah, you've seen it.
Where is he?
Well, first of all,
he lost his phone number.
Well, I don't really care for Tarbo.
Nobody does.
No, but nobody does. But at the same time, right? The concept is that to me was more Dragon Ball Z than any episode of Super. Mm-hmm. Okay. It had the comedy. Everybody had their time to shine. It was I was so happy watching that special because it was like it was so Dragon Ball Z. The Kid Trunks, them going after the finding the carrot, Master Roshi getting the carrot that looked like the woman. And then everybody else falling on the floor. Vegeta saying, "Oh, my son has the biggest carrot," but then Trunks, Goku cheats and
remember, was it Goten's root just happened to?
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Goten's root, and then he says, "Okay, Trunks got this." No, go ahead and help Trunks. Vegeta said it's okay. That was more Dragon Ball Z.
It showed him as a father.
Oh man, and I was just like, I said, yo, this is amazing. When Tien did the not Tien but Yamcha did his classic spirit bomb.
Yeah, the little spirit
bomb to blow up the pillar.
Or even just the small details of, you could tell that Goten and Trunks had at some point been training with Tien and Yamcha, right? Because Goten does the Wolf Fang fist and the volleyball fist. And he had to have learned that from them. So you're seeing, like you said, there's little Easter eggs of like these people have continued to live their lives, and they're still interconnected after all this time.
And it's just like what Dragon Ball Z needs. I think what would save them is them to reintroduce, because there's no way Heroes is having better, interesting storylines within 10 minutes than Dragon Ball Z Super.
Because Heroes is not afraid to expand on an idea, right? And I think just to kind of like land it, right, so we can kind of wrap things up. And again, you guys are more than welcome to interject. I think to that point, right, with Heroes, we're seeing things that they're willing to go deeper into the lore, right? Of like they do, what's his face, Dr. Wheeler from The World's Strongest. What did his body look like before he became a giant brain? They did that. What would he do? What would it look like if he powered himself up as an android? They did that. What would happen if Babidi got a hold of stronger characters, from the demon realm? They did that, right? If Deborah is one of the biggest rulers of the demon realm, there has to be other characters just as strong as him. They did that, right? They're doing they're taking these concepts that Dragon Ball introduces, throws away immediately, and expands on it. And I think my issue is it's a couple of key things for me. It's these reveals and drops, right? So to your guys' point about Broly, right? You see this concept of, I remember we were all talking about this. It's like, how is Broly going to keep up with Goku and Vegeta at this point? There's Super Saiyan Blue, Goku has Ultra Instinct. You're going to get clapped. Yep. And you find out that he's able to channel his power through using the Great Ape form while in human form, aka Super Saiyan 4. What gets done with that? Nothing. Right? You see that Goku's been training in God Ki and he's able to paralyze Broly using his ki. What gets done with that? Nothing. To your point, Jory, when you said Vegeta, he goes to Yardrat, he learns the technique of what happens when you can't just outpunch your character because he drains your energy. Now I can drain that energy back. What gets done with that? Nothing. It goes right back to who has the bigger ki attack, Goku Susanoo, they win. We keep getting alluded to that there is
incredible.
We get this illusion that obviously there is some type of space capitalistic system, right? Where, like you guys said, the Frieza Force are like pirates, right? That's why the Jocko and the Space Police Force are there. Granola's a bounty hunter in this ecosystem. What is happening with that, right? Why is it that the Ceruleans, after the Granola arc wraps up, they immediately just go to work for Frieza? The same Frieza that they're plotting to kill. You have these ideas that you can just, if you just gave it a little bit more time in the oven, you have storylines. You have storylines there. Again, for me, going back to the review that I had with Tim about the Dragon Ball superhero movie, I said one of the things that I really appreciated is the lore, right? What happened to the Red Ribbon Army? We got our answer. You know what I'm saying? They did a really good job of recapping, like, here's what happened. Here's what Commander Red's son did. Here, it's a pharmaceutical company, which makes perfect sense. You know what I'm saying? It makes perfect sense. Dr. Dro had a family. This is like his grandson. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's an even super genius. He's able to make these androids that aren't just copy and paste from 17 to 18.
You find out,
like, but
you find out Dr. Gero looked like Android 13.
Yeah. Right. Dr. Gero, Android 13 looks like a younger version of Dr. Gero, right? We finally get confirmation that 16 was built after his son. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have all these things. It's like, yeah, this happened. Can I get more? No. Go on, beach. Roll credits. You're just like, bro, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just certain things where, like, again, to kind of wrap things all up, like, my issue with modern Dragon Ball will always come down to these couple of things. No elaboration on the lore, right? Merchandising before storytelling, right? We have to get a new form. And I'm not even necessarily mad about a new form, right? But if you mean to tell me that Gohan just got angry for the 45th time and unlocked a new form, that doesn't feel earned to me, right? I'd be more behind it if I'm like, that's the whole reason why we all clown Super Saiyan Rage Trunks. This makes no sense.
And even in the manga, he doesn't get that form.
He never gets it.
So it's kind of like all right, even like my theory about Gohan Beast is like kind of like similar like to like, remember like Ultra Instinct Sign, where he still had the black hair, but the pupils was different. People are saying that, this beast form is the further extension of him training under Kai Ki. Because you remember, that does make sense. He did train with the Elder Kais. Like Goku, Vegeta, and Gohan both trained with the hierarchy. Goku trained with the angels, so he gained an angel technique. Vegeta was more of the god of destruction path, so he got a technique that reflects them. So he's Gohan, the Kais, the Trinity. All their life forces are connected together.
But I guarantee you, on the money, Tim, nobody in the office thought about it like you did. On the money.
Because like the fact that he still has I was like, bro, that's the same color hair the Supreme Kai has.
No. But Tim, this is honest mistakes. This is your genius showing, right? you need to be a writer, dog, right? Because I mean,
because basically it's the final form of what Ultimate Gohan should have been if he had more time.
Mm-hmm. And then now, right? And then now you justified the transformation. Now, even if we're looking like it's spikes on spikes on spikes, you're like, but this makes sense. How can I argue this, right? I think one of the reasons, and maybe I'm just by myself with this, one of the reasons why Ultra Instinct works so well is because, one, we alluded to it way early on in Super, and it's a concept we can get behind. What happens when you hone your instincts enough that your body reacts on its own? That's genius. That's genius. You know what I'm saying? It's just like it's. I guess to my final point, the lack of technique, it's again. I'm gonna sound like a broken horse every time I bring up Dragon Ball. It is a martial arts series. One of the reasons why Master Roshi has aged so well is because this man pulls out techniques out of. This man had electricity, a demon sealing technique, the originator of the Kamehameha. You know what I'm saying? He's doing all hypnosis. He is a martial arts master. You know what I'm saying? It's a martial arts series. The concept of the Kaioken, what happens when your body can't keep up with the ability that you're pouring out. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's these certain things where it's like, that's what kind of brought us in. It wasn't just, yes, the power-ups are always there. I'm not going to sit there and act like they weren't. We all know where we were when Goku turned into Super Saiyan. Gohan turning Super Saiyan 2 against Cell is goated, right? It's in the history books of anime, right? But it's just kind of like it's become too lopsided, right? It's just transform. These are fighting people, martial arts masters. So closing thoughts, because closing thoughts on this. Anything that I might have missed?
I mean, no, yeah, you hit it on the money, man.
Yeah, like it's story continuity, man. Story continuity. A lot of failed promises. Like GT was the prime example of that. Like it had decent ideas, but poor execution. Like Shadow Dragons, bro. Like that was a great
Black
concept.
Dragon Balls.
What happens when you use Dragon Ball too much?
That was a great concept. Like even the way how 17 got reintroduced back into the world, I don't really care for Super 17 no more.
Yeah.
And after the granola, we technically don't really care about Baby no more because whatever, he was just a parasite. But it was just like I said, it was a lot of failed opportunities, and I feel like Super is starting to do it again. And then the biggest, and I really need the biggest indication of that was Goku Black, and I was like, yeah, they starting to get a little flip floppy. And then you saw with Moro, bro. It's like they're just doing too much on one end and one end. Yes, the Tournament of Power, that was pretty level. The only thing that I did not like was this whole Majin Buu gimmick of him always being asleep, bro. I was
always.
Like, come on, bro.
Always conveniently hibernating.
Conveniently hibernating, and for what? For what?
Oh man.
Closing thoughts.
Okay, closing thoughts, man. This is why people like Baki.
Because of the martial arts.
It's not only that. It's just like it's the craziness. Dragon Ball Z should have been doing the crazy zany stuff that Baki does. Just on a galactic scale. Yeah, it's the storyline. It's trash. We can't follow it. There's too many animes with more compelling storylines, right? And when you do a good storyline, it's not even a part of the main brand.
Yeah.
Why are you leaving the canon movies suspended in animation when you guys need ideals? You did a good job with Broly. Have Toriyama draw new Cooler.
Yeah.
Have Toriyama draw new
Bojack.
New Bojack.
Let's make Garlic Jr. a thing.
New Garlic Jr. Let's make him a real thing. Let's stop taking on. Let's make Dr. Giro, not Dr. Giro, but Willow a real thing, right? I shared concepts with you about the films, and I said, like, okay, the Tree of Might, what happened? So you mean to tell me nobody kept any of the fruits?
They had to grow to fruition somewhere. Like somewhere, somebody harvested the fruit. Yeah. Okay.
You know what I'm saying? There you go. That's one. Second thing, the androids, Android 13, like put them in, if you have a copy version of yourself, and now you find out that 16 and then where's 21?
Right. We know she exists now.
She exists. So why not 21? 21 now has beef with Boma. Two scientists, right? Why isn't Boma developing technology for better technology for science? She's doing it, but not really, right?
It's always more. It's very reactionary. She's not like.
It's very reactionary. Yeah, she's not innovative. You got that. Gohan's interested in bugs as a teacher. Okay, I can see him being a Clark Kent, but at the same time, how does he really not care about fighting if he's secretly disguised as saying that? It don't make no sense. Oh man, here's the kicker. Who's Chi-Chi's dad?
Ox King.
Ox King.
And what does the Ox King do? What was his caliber? He was just an Ox King god? Is he from another dimension?
No, he was a student of Master Roshi.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He was like a warlord first area.
Okay. Now the Red Ribbon Army. You have the prime opportunity to create a Lex Luthor type establishment in your universe, right? The Big Getty Star. There's stuff to go, man. You got stuff to go. The Big Getty Star is what they use to make the androids. That's why they could withstand saying something. Give me something that makes sense. You got Hit is an assassin, but are there other assassins that can do what Hit do? Hit's race.
He's thousands of years old. You know, they say that and kind of skim right over it.
He's thousands of years old, but he's the only one. I find it hard to believe.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? There's so much you could do, man. Bojack is a pirate, and Bojack is actually searching for the Big Getty Star because the Big Getty Star is not what people think it is. It's actually something else.
So again, expanding on a storyline in a way that means something.
Yeah, and the angels, that's all his children.
Yeah, I think for me, in conclusion, and we'll end on this note. I think my thing is, it's time for these characters to mature a little bit, right? I think to defend a little bit, I think they're doing a pretty good job with Piccolo, right? I think he's definitely in the mentor role. I think they should have Goku meet him there. I think it's time to introduce Oob, right? I think it's time for Goku at this point in the series is like 50 years old. Stop making him this childish man-child at this point. He is a grandfather. You know, we know that he goes on to train Oob. We know that he's, he is all about, leaving things to the next generation. Go home and train your son.
Yeah, like more of like the Hokage Naruto demeanor. Because I did like how they really matured his demeanor. You saw his growth as a person.
Yeah, it's still what I'm saying. Naruto said that character at heart, he could still be silly, right? This is still the Naruto we grew up with, but like you said, this is Naruto, the grown man, the leader of the village, the man who's achieved his dreams. With Goku, it's like sometimes he's the Goku from the Cell Saga. Sometimes he's Goku the idiot, right? It's like, which one is it? Like, he can still be Goku without being a child. You know what I'm saying? I think it's time to. You can slowly start to give these characters more breathing room to grow, right? It's like Tien opens a fighting school, we never hear about it again. You know what I'm saying? You can give Goten and Trunks more to do, right? I just think it's time for Dragon Ball. I guess it's the spirit of Toriyama. He doesn't want it to be too overly serious, which is fine. But I think it's time for these characters who have been around at this point for 40 years to mature. You know what I'm saying? To really start to bridge that gap where Dragon Ball GT attempted to go, where it's like we can kind of age these characters a bit and it still have the spirit of Dragon Ball. Goku and Vegeta can kind of take more of a sideline role for these other secondary characters to be more prevalent. And it's still, you know what I'm saying? And still have impact on the story. So that's my closing thoughts. I appreciate you guys giving me your closing thoughts. This has been another really good podcast episode. Thank you guys for hanging in on the East Coast. I know it's late. So again, guys, thank you so much for listening. If you tuned in, I I actually thought this would be a shorter episode, but I think we kind of really got into depth of the Big Three era. I felt like every point that was made, I learned some things I didn't think about. I got some perspective I didn't think about initially when we were planning this episode. And I just thought it was a really great talk. So once again, Antonius the Gamer, y'all, give y'all shout outs for your names and we'll just call it the episode.
Super SS rank.
Michael Smith logging off.
Yes, sir. And it's been episode 6 of the Gamer Podcast. Like, subscribe, share, and we'll see y'all next time.
Take care.